Hi, I'm Mark Yaxley. Welcome back to Inside the Vault. Today we're actually taking a step out of the vault to meet with a very close friend of mine who's been selling numismatic coins for over 40 years as well as antiques, Mr. Charlie Adams of Artifacts here in Grand Cayman. We're going to be speaking to Charlie about collectibles. What makes a coin collectible? What makes it special? And how do people get started in collectible coins? So without further ado, Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Charlie, you know, a lot of our clients are very familiar with a 1 ounce gold coin like a gold eagle that I'm holding here in my hand. And you've got some really interesting pieces on the table, I see. But what's the difference between a bullion coin and a collectible coin?
I think probably the first answer to that is history, because that is a piece of metal that is based on its intrinsic value. These are way beyond that. These are collectibles, they have history, they have art. So you're looking at a totally different level of interest. And numismatics is the study and collection of coins. So as I say, they don't even really equate. These have a basic intrinsic value, but they go way beyond that with the history and the condition and the stories about them.
Right. So you touched on there is obviously the metal content. There's some gold and some silver in those coins, but there's so much more to it. So when you're looking at a coin, or when an investor looks at a coin, can you talk to me just a little bit more? What exactly are they looking for in that coin?
Rarity and condition would be the two most primary things to consider when you're looking for a numismatic item. That is really the history and the background of the coin.
So how rare does a coin have to be to make it interesting? I mean, I know there's a wide range there, obviously, but for someone like yourself, when you look at a coin, you know, how many in the world are you looking for, or along those lines? Can you give us an idea?
At the very top end of collecting coins, people are looking for coins that are possibly less than 10 or 15 known, but obviously the price is going to be so prohibitive to everybody else. People collect for any reason and every reason. Some people collect thematically, some people collect historically, shipwrecks, or something that has connections to their family. So there's no one answer to that question that I could give you.
It sounds a lot more personal than when you're buying bullion, for example, which is rather impersonal, I'd say. The clients that we have simply buy it as an investment against the spot price and see if it's moving up or down, and they might liquidate it. But it sounds like in the case of collectibles, a little bit like when I was a kid and I was collecting baseball cards, I became really attached to those cards. Is it the same for yourself and your clients?
Yes. I mean, a lot of people will try and complete a set of one particular denomination, for instance, that doesn't have to be expensive. You can go for pennies. You can look for silver dollars. You can look for $20 gold pieces. You know, some people will do it just from the basis of a denomination. Others are obviously looking to find something that they hope in time will increase in value. There's no guarantee with anything that it's going to go up in value, but generally the rarer and the better condition the piece is, the more likely it is to go up in value. So that would be a consideration for some people, not everybody. Some are in it just for the enjoyment of putting a set together.
So if someone's just getting started in collectibles, there's obviously a lot of questions and a lot of information, and I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about these coins on the table in a second, but do you have any practical advice for someone who walks in your shop for the first time and said, you know, I'd like to start. How do I start? Where do I start?
Sure. I think two things. Firstly, read, if you can, about the subject matter before you even consider buying. I mean, that is the primary thing, because, you know, if you don't know anything about it, it's very difficult to actually decide what you want or what you should be paying. And then talk to as many people, collectors, dealers, go to a coin show, visit an auction room, watch what happens. It'll give you an insight as to what people are chasing, and you might decide on an area that they're not chasing to be something that would be more affordable, something you could build a collection without spending an arm and a leg.
Why don't we talk a little bit about these great pieces you have on the table? I mean, you were showing them to me earlier, and I'm just amazed, to be honest. And I'm a bullion guy by trade, so why don't you walk us through briefly this wonderful set of coins you have here?
Sure. What I've tried to do with this little group of coins is to sort of historically follow a pattern of empires. The earliest one we have is a piece from Athens, which was struck somewhere between 454 and 413 BC. This was within about the first 150 years of coin production. Amazing. Before that, people pretty well bartered for everything. Mm-hmm. The idea of the coin was it was a consistent, known quantity of a known quality, so people could, without having to think about it, they could accept a coin. So the first one I have is a Greek Empire piece, followed by a beautiful coin of Alexander the Great. This is actually Alexander's portrait. Portraits were not put on coins at the time because they felt they would insult the gods if they had a portrait on there. Okay. But after he died, his bodyguard and general Lysimachus, who took Thrace over, decided to deify him. So this is actually the portrait of Alexander the Great with the horn of Ammon. This was struck somewhere around 316 to 280 BC. The next coin I brought in, this is a coin from the time when the Greek Empire was collapsing and the Romans became the dominant power. The tipping point was around 195 BC, and Rome took over Macedonia and produced this absolutely beautiful coin with the goddess Diana on, with the Macedonian shield round and the Club of Hercules on the back.
I'm amazed at the condition of these coins.
Well, these are high-end. They are basically coins that have probably come out of land finds or old collections over the years. People buried money, there were no banks. In times of economic hardship or in times of social unrest or an approaching army, people would do what people do now, which is hide their money under a bed or in a pot or whatever. So these are the very top end of coinage that you would see. The next coin I put in here is quite an interesting one. This is Roman Republican, so this is when the Senate ruled Rome. It's the very first attempt to make a coin with a milled edge so that you could see if someone had tampered with it. It was a failed effort because it was so time and labor intensive to make that it just became impractical. The Roman Empire was followed by the Byzantine Empire. This is the Roman Emperor Constans II. So this is when Constantinople had become the center of the world effectively and the center of Christianity. It actually on the reverse has a cross with 3 steps. When the Byzantine Empire basically collapsed in Europe, the Venetians became the dominant power. And this is, the Venetians were the dominant power in the Mediterranean and hence the world for about 5 centuries. They put Christ on one side of the coin and the Doge of Venice with the patron saint of Venice. At the same time, China had become a dominant power in the East. And this is a beautiful example of a bronze Chinese coin struck during the Song dynasty, the Northern Song dynasty, around 1100 AD. This came out of a river find in China. After the Venetian Empire waned, the Dutch, the Spanish and the British became the 3 dominant world powers. So I brought in a very beautiful example of a Dutch gold coin, which came from Berlin, and a sea salvaged one. Now that is another area people might just decide to collect just shipwreck coins. And I know a number of people who will just try to find coins from every shipwreck they can. The Spanish, of course, ruled ruled the world as a dominant power economically because they found gold and silver in the New World, and this is actually a gold doubloon from a shipwreck in the New World. It was struck in Santiago de Chile, was mule packed across to Uruguay, put onto a ship in Uruguay, and sank in the estuary as it left. And then finally, the British Empire, of course, was again a very dominant empire. This coin, the sovereign, was probably the preeminent gold coin of the 18th and 19th century, or late 18th and 19th century. This one came out of a shipwreck off Spain. So that was really just to try and give you an idea of how many different areas you could even consider looking at.
And that's only 10 coins?
Yes.
So can you give us any idea of the value of these coins that you have?
So this coin, Mark, is a gold doubloon, and in a coin show or an auction, a wholesale price on this would be somewhere in the region of $4,500.
Wholesale?
Yes, wholesale. That's the sort of price that you'd expect to pay at a show if you're a dealer. If you're retailing this coin, this would sell for somewhere between $5,500, maybe $6,000 for a particularly nice specimen.
Wow.
That's the most valuable coin I have in the group here. The gold will obviously run higher than the silver generally, but this beautiful early example, this is a coin that you would expect to pay probably $1,500 to $2,000.
I can't believe the condition of that coin considering it's over 2,000 years old. It's absolutely immaculate.
It is.
I would have been fooled. I still have a hard time believing it's authentic, to be honest.
We often find that's the problem. People cannot believe until you show them examples and talk to them about it. They are very skeptical that you can find a coin in this condition. This coin will have been struck and put away somewhere. A merchant will have had it. It may have been buried, and then it's been found. It'll come out in the condition that it was effectively put into the ground. So that's why it's in such beautiful condition. It's also an exceptional condition because the centering is beautiful, and collectors of this type of coin look for the crest on the helmet, and that adds considerably to the value. The more crest visible, the higher the price goes.
Right.
The other pieces here, a sovereign has a bullion weight of 0.2354 of an ounce, which currently would be somewhere in the region of $300.
So that would be the baseline value, obviously the metal content.
You could melt it for
above and beyond that, you'll have the collectible value of the coin.
The next value that you'd look at is the numismatic value of that particular coin, which is a Queen Victoria sovereign. So the date comes into it and condition, but then it's added to again by the fact this is a shipwreck coin.
Wow.
So there is an added premium for the story of coming out of a shipwreck.
Right.
So that would give you a sort of an idea of where to price or where to pay for a coin of that quality.
You know what, Charlie? I'm starting to feel like I need to spend more time with someone like you before I get into this. But so I imagine that's the practical advice that you would give someone again, as we do. We always say, speak to a reputable dealer. And I imagine in your world, it's the same concept.
Absolutely. There are several worldwide and national associations. Probably the best of the lot is the American Numismatic Association, which has over 30,000 members. It has a code of ethics. You can be a collector or a dealer and a member. And I always say to people, talk to somebody who has a reputation, somebody who has a qualification, somebody who's a member of a proper organization, because that way you should be dealing with someone who will give you the straight and straight answers on what you want to know.
Truly fascinating stuff, Charlie. I greatly appreciate you being with us here today. I'm sure people are going to have questions for you. Is there a way that people can reach you if they want to start collecting?
Sure. We have an email, artifacts, ARTIFAX, @candw.ky.
Okay.
We also are on social media. We have a Facebook page. We're on Instagram and we're on TripAdvisor. So, but we'd love to see people in the store, and we're more than happy to talk. You don't have to buy.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks again, Charlie. That's it for this episode of Inside the Vault. We hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure you learned something. I know I did. We look forward to seeing you next time.